All right, 2003 Ford F-150, the Harley Davidson edition. Why are we checking this out? Because it's interesting. That's why we're checking it out. And because I learned another very interesting fact about this car, and that's the fact that this is supercharged. Very similar to the Ford F-150 Lightning, which gets all the attention and rave from this generation. But I had no idea that this was just a slightly more detuned version of the Lightning. Okay, it's got a 5.4 liter supercharged motor, and this thing produces 340 horsepower and 425 pounds-feet of torque. Just 40 horsepower shy from the Lightning and 25 pounds-feet of torque shy from the Lightning as well. So with that established, let's go ahead and let's get this little bad boy out on the road here. And who do we have to thank for this opportunity? It is none other than Cary Imports in Cary, North Carolina. So if you're interested in buying this bad boy, well, it's located here, and this thing is going for around $13,900. And the reason why is because this vehicle doesn't actually have 87,000 miles on it. It actually has 250,000 miles on it. And the previous dealer or owner or whoever the hell had this car before managed to tinker with the odometer, and that's why it only shows 87,000. And we'll talk more about how this vehicle's aged and all that throughout this drive and throughout the interior segment. But anyway, let's get started here. First of all, let's talk about the looks, because this is the 100-year anniversary edition, okay? 1903 to 2003, so it certainly does represent some historical significance for the brand, but more importantly, I'm more interested in that. And that's really the only reason why you should be interested in this as well, this 5.4 liter supercharged motor. But the other thing is, you know, it does look pretty nice too. I really like this generation of the F-150. It looks good. It's not quite as rugged or large as the current generation F-150s, but it's got a nice design to it. And this is supposed to be kind of like that luxury-esque truck. You know, the Lightning was supposed to be that performance-based truck, and this it's supposed to be kind of like a luxurious version of that. And it was like a very strange time for the company where they're making these Lincoln Blackwoods and all that stuff. And, you know, luxury pickup trucks were just a failing proposition until recently, obviously, and when they're starting to sell like $80,000 fully loaded trucks with air suspension and massaging seats, right? So it's a success now, but it wasn't before. But again, that's not why any of this stuff matters. It's not fast. It just sounds really cool, and it sounds like, and it feels like you're doing 100+ miles an hour in this thing all the time. So enough of the looks. I mean, you have eyes, you can decide for yourself. It's got the little pinstriping kind of going throughout the vehicle, and I like it. It adds to the character of this vehicle. But let's transition over into this drive, shall we? We got a 4-speed automatic, you know, very antiquated technology here. But again, in this era of dying V8s, I just wanted to check out all these little weird and interesting cars from back in the day. I came here, I tested out a Thunderbird that they had here, you know, just cars that I was always really curious about. And this is far cooler than that because it's got a supercharged V8, of course, and because it's only a 4-speed, it doesn't have too many gears for it to jump down. But I will say, the handling of this and the steering of this really detracts from the driving confidence because it's so vague. You can just kind of move the steering wheel around and it doesn't really do anything. And there's like this ponderous nature to the suspension where every time you floor it, you just don't know what's going to happen type of thing. So this is, again, near 20-year-old suspension design architecture, right? Okay, it's got that short, long arm suspension setup in the front end, and it's also got a live rear axle. So again, handling is definitely not its strong suits. You know, this would be an amazing kind of project car to undertake. I would try to I would definitely fix the suspension on this, and I would do some paint correction and really try to make this car shine. That's what I would try to do with this. But other than that, it does drive really well. You'd be surprised. It doesn't feel like a car with 250,000 miles on it. It actually feels like a car with 87,000 miles on it, like the odometer would suggest, but it doesn't. It has 250K on it. Gosh, like every time I floored in this thing, I always had to get right back onto the brakes because it just kind of sways in one direction every time I floor it. Tries to lean right a little bit. And again, this isn't exciting because you're going really fast. It's exciting because it feels like you're going way faster than what you are. And I'll test a little bit more of this handling and this ride quality here in a bit when we get this over some more trash bumps. But as of right now, this is a really good riding truck. I really wasn't expecting this out of this vehicle. It is a luxury truck after all, and I guess they kind of dampened this to be a little bit softer. I'd be curious to try out a Lightning now because I'm sure that would be the far better handling version of this vehicle, albeit by sacrificing some of this ride quality. It's a decent little cruiser, but there's like that little bit of instability that you feel even at these cruising speeds. So definitely something to look into. I think a little bit of suspension work can definitely fix that up. We got 20-inch wheels here, you know, nice big chrome wheels. I think the original tire size was 275 wide in all four corners. This is now 255 in all four corners, so something to keep in mind. Brakes are really good, no issues there. That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't drive half bad. It's just like, maybe it's like a bushing issue or something like that. And if you replace some of these suspension components, I think it could actually improve the steering feel of this. Because it's supercharged, there's always immediacy to the power delivery of this vehicle. And the 4-speed means that all the gears are like really tall. Yeah, going over some of these more jittery kind of bumps here. Yeah, it actually rides surprisingly well in here. And it's not terribly loud in here either, like some of you might think. There's no use of double pane glass. In fact, this glass is actually pretty damn thin and kind of flimsy even. So I kind of figured that this wouldn't be as quiet as it is. I mean, it's not like dead silent in here, you know, it's not like a Mercedes S-Class in here. I'm just surprised for a vehicle of this vintage, it's not too bad. And you know, it is a pickup truck, so you do kind of sit up higher than you normally would in any other vehicle, so I do like that. This would make for a badass dragster, you know. This is, it is rear wheel drive, obviously, 4x2, if you will. Went over some railroad bumps there, absorbed that really well. This is, you know, this car, it obviously has its shortcomings, right? But it's just like cars that aren't quite perfect. And don't mind that, that's just a little keychain thing kind of bouncing around. But anyway, it's cars that aren't perfect, that kind of have its flaws, that are more fun to drive, if you will. It's like those new age Euro cars, they try to be perfect, and that means it kind of loses some soul. I kind of busted that turn there, and the chassis and the body of this is actually not half bad. That's what I'm saying. If you did like a nice little coilover system, or you really kind of tinkered with the bushings, control arms, whatever, with this truck, this could actually handle decently well. The interior is shit, but that's to be expected from like an early 2000s kind of domestic product, if you will. You know, all of these cars were kind of like this. Saw a little C63 AMG, a little C8 Corvette drive by. You know what? I've driven all those little cars, and they kind of lack some character and some soul, right? Maybe not the AMG, but definitely something like the C8. You know, you drive those cars kind of hard, and you feel nothing with a lot of these newer cars. And these kind of seemingly shit vehicles are what is most fun to drive. So I think I'll leave it at that. I think you kind of get the point. This isn't bad. I certainly, if you can't tell, I'm having fun driving this thing. So there you go. That's my thoughts on this F-150. We just went over a very large bump right there, and it absorbed it extremely well. And with that, let's go ahead and let's transition over into this interior segment. All right, well, stepping into the interior of this F-150 Harley Davidson edition, as you can see, we got all the little logos here, right, on the seats even, except over there because it's missing on the passenger side seat. But anyway, as you can see, there's definitely some interior wear like you would expect, especially since not the best materials are being used in here. And this thing does have like 250,000 miles on it, so there's definitely some wear around the leather areas, right? Some wrinkling going on here, but again, not as bad as I thought it would be, right? And we got ourselves, you know, the regular key. This is what was kind of dangling around, making that noise. So let's go ahead, put that in there, start it right up, and you know what? It's a nice sounding motor. This sounds great, so I do like that. Tone that down a little bit. The good thing is air conditioning, everything just works in here. But let's first of all, let's talk about kind of overall, what do we have here? Well, we have a big plastic bucket right here. You know, this whole interior is just one big plastic molding, and it's all the scratchy type of material. Again, dude, come on, you know what you're getting into with these early model or these early 2000s domestic cars, right? They're all kind of like this. They're not really anything to behold. But let's talk about some of the interesting features going on here. First of all, I really like the gauge cluster in this car. It's got this nice, unique kind of, this is really the nicest part about this car. As far as the interior goes, it really looks cool. It's got a nice finishing to it, this kind of silver finishing. This little pattern inside of it looks really retro. It says Supercharged right there. We have a little column shifter right here, and it's not really the most precise thing in the world, but it gets a job done. You got a real parking brake, right, that you kind of have to pull on it and then it'll come out. Steering wheel is kind of a thin rim setup here going on, and it's, again, kind of lacks that precision that I was talking to you about, but you have some steering wheel buttons as well. You got yourself automatic windows only for the driver's side here, and it only goes down one touch, but it won't go back up one touch, of course, right? And everything just works in here. I will give it that. There's no stupid check engine lights. Everything, all the little electronics work in here. The seats are actually electronic, which I'll get out of the vehicle to show you guys that. As you can see here, all electronic, goes up and all that good stuff, right? So that's really good. And you had to press on this for the recline function. The seats themselves, like this part is really comfortable, but the seat backing, both in the front and the rear, it's really kind of stiff. Something to keep in mind. I don't personally mind it, but it's something to note about these seats, but they are relatively comfortable. Another really cool feature, the pedals move. So as you can see there, very interesting. And this function actually moves the rear window. You can actually open that. That little portion. Got a custom kind of Pioneer head unit display. Obviously that's aftermarket, but that does have the Bluetooth. Got aux as well, but I think this is an older unit, so it doesn't have Apple CarPlay or any of that nonsense. All the climate control works in here. Okay, just kind of press on this. This is the fan speed. This is your nonsense cup holder situation. Let's just close that up. Big old tray here with the little plaque, right? Got your Supercharged with the VIN number right there in the middle. More cup holders. In the middle here, you have a decent amount of space, but of course it's all kind of creaky and crunchy. It's all just plastic. Not too much space in the glove box. Something to keep in mind there. Let's go ahead. Let's transition over into that rear seats now, because it's early 2000s car. Not really a whole lot going on here, but I showed you some of the interesting little features that this car has. But the back will kind of impress you, I think. As you can see, we have TVs in the back here, but for whatever reason, they won't turn on. So I don't really understand what's going on there. And I believe this is factory. Again, this is the luxury trim of the F-150s. But again, you have the same sort of seats that you saw there. This kind of two-tone effect is bespoke to the F-150. right? This kind of grayish white seat going on here. You have a very large center armrest area here with some suspect looking headphones and a remote. I don't even want to touch that, but you know, there it is. As you can see there with all the little wiring harnesses, I have no idea what the hell is going on in there, but you know, let's just close all that up. This is really the best looking part about this. Just close it and look at this big old plaque right there. And you have these little volume controls, all that stuff for accessing the rear head unit. And that's how you know this is not aftermarket. This is truly a part of the vehicle. And also the door handle right there is also kind of missing. But again, a few little project things that maybe you can fix up with this car. You kind of press up on this, that'll kind of fold down, and it's our, you know, you have some storage back there. But on the other side, what you have is a set of like the jack stands to lift this car up. Another interesting touch about this is the kind of tonneau cover, color matched, all that good stuff, and you gotta lift that up, and then this whole thing lift up, and there you go. That's your bed. Got a little dent right there, a little dirty, but as a whole, not too bad. Got the Harley Davidson logo right there in the middle, just so you know what you're driving here, because it's a unique piece of automotive history, right? So there you are. That's your bed. It's not that large. Again, you don't really buy this for practicality purposes. You know what you're buying this thing for, right? Supercharged 5.4 liter V8 with the 20-inch chrome wheels. That's why you buy this. All right, so concluding thoughts on this F-150 Harley Davidson edition. To some of you, this car might be a complete joke, and you know, you're not completely wrong for thinking that, but you have to admit it is a 5.4 liter supercharged motor. I just keep reiterating that because you know, that's the main highlight to this thing, and that's why you should consider owning something like this. Or if you're just like a Ford collector or like a fanatic, or this was your dream truck from like a long time ago, and now it's finally at a point where even despite these ridiculous pandemic prices, it's still kind of at a affordable price point, I suppose. But it is a unique truck. It does have its charms. It does look kind of cool, and this thing does have a lot of interesting features, one of which I didn't talk about, but it was that sunroof. I forgot to mention that. But anyway, it marks the 100-year anniversary for Ford vehicles as a whole, right? For that reason alone, it's going to hold some value, I think. If you really clean this thing up, I think it has a lot of potential. So with that, there you go. I mean, that's a look at this vehicle, and if you're interested in buying it, like I mentioned, it is located at Cary Imports for around 14 grand. So thanks again for watching this review. Take care and goodbye.